Michael had always believed that love could survive anything, even the weight of an empty bank account. But one evening, as he sat in his small, dimly lit apartment, the woman he once trusted most shattered that belief. His wife, Claire, slid divorce papers across the table, her voice cold and steady as she confessed she had been seeing another man, wealthy, powerful, everything Michael was not. In her eyes, his worth was tied to his wallet, and since his pockets were empty, so was her love. Fast forward just 1 year later, and fate staged an unforgettable scene. At a lavish wedding filled with crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and whispered gossip, the room froze when a man walked through the doors. Michael, no longer the broke husband Claire, had abandoned entered with a quiet confidence that made every head turn. Guests murmured in disbelief. Claire's smile faltered, even the groom paled. It was the kind of moment people never forget, the kind of twist that life writes better than fiction. And it leaves us wondering, have you ever been underestimated by someone who swore they loved you? Michael's world had always been small, a cramped, one-bedroom apartment where the pipes rattled at night and the paint peeled off the walls. The refrigerator was rarely full, but his mind was. Every evening after work, he'd sit at a worn-out desk with his laptop, teaching himself code, sketching out business plans, and chasing the dream that one day, all of this struggle would mean something. Claire, at first, said she believed in him. She would nod while he talked about ideas late into the night, holding a cup of instant coffee because that was all they could afford. But over time, the sparkle in her eyes dimmed. The endless bills, the second-hand clothes, the nights of ramen noodles, what Michael saw as temporary stepping stones, Claire saw as a life sentence. The breaking point came on a cold evening. She placed a stack of papers on the table, divorce papers. Her voice carried no hesitation as she admitted she'd been seeing someone else, David Richardson, a man with expensive suits, a shiny car, and a family name that opened doors. Michael sat in silence, every word cutting deeper than the last. He thought love was about weathering storms together, but Claire saw storms as a reason to abandon ship. For her, security wasn't built, it was bought, and Michael's worth, in her eyes, couldn't compete with David's wealth. That night, as the door closed behind her, the apartment felt emptier than ever. Yet somewhere inside that emptiness, a spark remained, a determination that the woman who left him would one day regret underestimating the man she once called her husband. Michael didn't waste time drowning in bitterness. The night Claire walked out, he sat alone in that same tiny apartment, staring at the divorce papers still lying on the table. His chest was heavy, but his mind was sharper than ever. Heartbreak had stripped everything away, except his hunger to prove he was more than the man she had dismissed. Every morning, before the sun rose, Michael worked his day job to keep food on the table. But every night, he worked for his future. With just his old laptop and a spotty internet connection, he taught himself how to build apps, design systems, and pitch to investors. It was grueling many nights. He slept only 3 or 4 hours, but his sacrifices started to open doors. One small freelance project led to another, and soon, he had a portfolio that spoke louder than his bank account ever could. In less than a year, Michael launched his own tech company. What started as a humble idea in a rundown apartment became a breakthrough platform that caught the attention of venture capitalists. Partnerships rolled in. Media outlets began calling him a visionary. Forbes listed him as one of the youngest self-made millionaires in the region. His name became synonymous with grit, innovation, and resilience. And while Michael kept his success quiet at first, Claire did not stay quiet about her new life. On social media, she flaunted trips abroad, designer bags, champagne dinners with David. Each post was polished like a highlight reel of luxury, crafted to show the world she had traded up. Yet behind those curated smiles, Michael knew the truth. Her security was borrowed, not built. The irony was sharp. While Claire showcased her wealth publicly, Michael was building his silently. While she clung to David's fortune, Michael was creating his own empire. He didn't need to post about it. Success had a way of speaking for itself. Then one afternoon, an envelope arrived at his office. Cream-colored, embossed with gold lettering, a wedding invitation. Claire and David Richardson were tying the knot. But it wasn't just an invitation, it was a taunt. Scrawled at the bottom in Claire's handwriting were the words, "I hope you find the courage to attend." Michael held the card for a long time, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. It was arrogance, disguised as courtesy. She wanted to parade her new life in front of the man she once abandoned. But what she didn't know was that the tables had already turned. He decided then and there he would attend. Not out of bitterness, not to beg for her back, but to stand as proof that the man she underestimated had risen higher than she ever imagined. And when the day came, he would not arrive as the heartbroken husband she once left behind, but as the man he was always meant to be. Powerful, unshakable, and untouchably successful. The wedding day arrived like a scene pulled from a glossy magazine. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, the floor gleamed beneath imported shoes, and every table overflowed with roses and champagne. Claire stood at the center of it all, dressed in a gown that screamed luxury, her arm linked proudly with David's. To the guests, it looked like a fairy tale. To Claire, it felt like vindication proof that leaving Michael had been the right choice. But then, the doors opened. The room shifted instantly, as though the air had been sucked out. A line of men in tailored suits, all wearing earpieces, walked in first, scanning the hall. Conversations died, champagne glasses hovered midair. And then Michael entered. No longer the man with worn-out shoes and tired eyes. He walked with the calm authority of someone who no longer needed to prove himself. His suit was custom, his presence magnetic, and every camera in the room turned toward him as if the event itself had changed direction. Claire froze. David straightened, forcing a smile that faltered almost immediately. Guests began whispering. Some recognized Michael from magazine covers, others from television interviews. "Isn't that Michael Harris, the tech billionaire?" The murmurs grew louder until the groom's spotlight faded entirely. What was supposed to be David's wedding now felt like Michael's arrival party, and Michael, with quiet composure, didn't need to boast. He simply greeted a few high-profile guests, investors, entrepreneurs, and executives who had been invited for Claire and David's sake but now rushed to shake Michael's hand. Within minutes, the celebration shifted from a wedding to what felt like a Harris global networking event. Business cards changed hands, conversations sparked about partnerships, and the only name anyone cared to mention was Michael's. Claire's painted smile cracked. She watched the man she had once called a burden now command the respect of every influential person in the room. Her heart twisted with regret. This wasn't the broken husband she had abandoned. This was a man who had climbed higher than she ever imagined, and he had done it without her. David tried to pull her closer, but the weight of comparison was crushing. For the first time, he looked small next to Michael's quiet power. Guests no longer praised the groom's wealth. Instead, they marveled at Michael's vision, his resilience, his empire built from nothing. The irony was unbearable. On the very day Claire wanted to flaunt her choice, the world reminded her of the man she had thrown away. And as Michael's gaze finally met Claire's across the hall, it wasn't filled with anger or longing. It was calm, steady, almost merciful. He didn't need to say a word. His presence alone spoke louder than any revenge could. For Claire, it was an emotional collapse. The fairy tale she had chased shattered in front of her. She realized too late that true strength, true worth, wasn't in borrowed riches but in the man who had once loved her deeply. And now, he was untouchable beyond her reach forever. As the night drew to a close, Claire finally approached Michael, her voice trembling with the weight of everything she had lost. For a moment, the years they shared flashed between them, the laughter, the dreams, the promises. But Michael's eyes no longer carried the same warmth. Calmly, he told her, "I did love you once, but I love my peace more." Those words cut deeper than anger ever could. It was not revenge, but closure. Michael walked away, not as the man abandoned in a tiny apartment, but as someone who had built his own empire, his own peace, his own life. And Claire was left to realize that wealth without loyalty is empty, while patience, resilience, and faith in yourself can turn even the darkest nights into dawn. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about knowing your worth. It's about the courage to rise when others count you out, and the discipline to keep building until success speaks for itself. Now, let me ask you, if you were Michael, would you ever give her a second chance? Or would you walk away and protect your peace, just as he did? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if stories of resilience, betrayal, and ultimate triumph inspire you, make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. There are more powerful lessons waiting, and you won't want to miss them.